good. Yep, thank you.
The patch for the ventilation, is that getting you by right now? Based on the circumstances that we're in with budget and everything is?
Yeah. Again, in a perfect world, we'd have the same level of ventilation in the athletics wing, physical education wing that we do in all the other content areas and discipline areas. The equipment that we have right now in our health rooms, it's okay, it does cool the room at least a little bit, but it does make a significant amount of noise when compared with the regular central air type ventilation. So that's a concern.
If I could add, there are 3 new units that are going to replace those as they're part of that's improper. At the end of last season, there were trays that catch the dehumidified water. Those began to break down, so we're replacing them with 3 new units this year. We hope that we fly them the ones that were existing, because the others that were there were at least 7 or 8 years old.
How are they?
Hopefully it'll be better.
How are they vended? How are they vended?
They're self-contained units, and they have a hose that lights to
Through the window.
So how, the weight room, is that the same you have there?
There isn't anything currently in the weight room except for the pedestal fans.
We do whatever
There's
we
no way
put
to
the air
ventilate it
conditioners in
out.
the weight room, we vented them out the door. Close up the door.
We should get one.
Well, that's what she just said, it's broken anyways.
Yeah, they come out pretty
Maybe
easy.
when we replace the windows, hopefully we can change them.
Are you still
The windows are great providing light, but also it creates a sauna type
Yeah, right.
situation. The weight room, like I was in there this afternoon and it being 30 degrees outside, I was standing with the technician pouring sweat down his face because it's just springtime now, so the sun, it's freezing, it's getting stronger.
Springtime?
Yeah, I know, well, we're gonna be going home for close.
Have we considered something as simple as a shade?
Looked into different types of stuff like that. Looked at like windows and stuff.
In the outside, the nice thick on it.
Yeah.
You don't like the tent now?
Yeah, we kind of have a shade right now. We have pretty good shade. It's like a white thing as opposed to a regular.
It's good for Christmas time, you know, blends in with the snow.
Is it true that my son's told me this, that every time they want to use the weight room, they have to have a someone has to be in there to supervise them? And that can't be in another, it has to be an adult, teacher, coach, it can't be two.
As far as liability, technically it should really be at a minimum, I'm gonna say this, not at a minimum, but it really should be somebody with a coaching certification. And then obviously the health and physical education teachers, which basically all have coaching certifications as well. It could potentially be a huge liability for us.
Yeah, I noticed again, the high school is increased by 4%, 4.001. Are we adding more?
Are you talking about the teachers now?
Yes.
There's no additions, we're actually, yeah, we're actually at a reduction of 4 person.
I saw the middle school one went down by
Right.
2.
Just again,
295.
we've reallocated the positions, but we haven't finalized it. I believe the position is going to 0.6 from a 1.0. So that was part of the reductions that we were looking at. And again, we haven't moved people from high school to middle school.
High school to middle school?
Middle schools.
In this situation, it's actually a split teacher. So he currently teaches 2 classes at the high school and 3 at the middle school. So the current level of the budget right now, you teach 2 classes at the high school and 1 at the middle school.
So he'd be 0.6.
0.6 is supposed to be.
A couple of quick questions. How many kids do you have that you're actually teaching?
At any given time, like as far as class sizes?
No, I meant in general, the total number of kids that we're taking. Jim, just working on a very small budget for a lot of kids.
Yeah, so we have 280 per class, 270, 260, 280.
280.
Right.
240.
So between 240 and 280. So if you're looking at semester-long classes, if we're talking about the middle school, then you have, in essence, you have half the school for physical education.
Thank you.
We do a good job taking, we do a good job taking care of our equipment and maintaining our equipment. It looks like it's a lot of money, but for the amount of children who use the equipment, I'd like to think that our department does a fairly good job.
Go find these moments.
Anyone else have any more questions? Chris?
Yeah, right.
We won't be adding that no more.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, that's, this is the Hobiac, head of the social studies department, social studies coordinator, to present this part of the social studies department.
Now, in this section in our book, we have also
Okay.
engineering and programming and finance.
Yeah, I saw that too, I wondered,
Is that going to be talked about today, or?
it was.
No.
I think that was right on the back side of the page, on the page.
That we talked about in detail.
Couple pages on it.
That was in the, that's in the first
Okay.
page.
Business and mellow
What's
engineering.
talking about bars,
And you want to talk about that stuff?
It's riveting, I'm sure, but
I
I'll
think
stick to
it-
AP
it's,
government if that's okay.
I think it was miscollated or something, maybe. Might belong somewhere else.
It belongs in the first section, like in
Yeah.
technology.
Technology. Yeah, I had that today too. Okay, Jennifer?
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Stahoviak, I'm, as indicated, Rham Social Studies Coordinator. And I suspect you'll notice that my budget is quite minimal in comparison to my colleagues. And a lot of that is because we have been able to successfully transition away from physical textbooks. This school year, we've seen a number of students, for the next school year, and looking at current numbers, we've seen a great jump similarly to science in our AP courses. We offer 4 AP courses in the social studies department. Next year, we will be adding, which will be our 4th one, an AP government and politics for our junior seniors if we can satisfy the civics course. If it's okay with permission, I have brought the course proposal form for that in the description if folks are interested in that.
You've distributed
I don't know if that one,
those descriptions that you provided us, Jen. Worked up these over.
is that the most recent one for this coming
Why don't
school
you
year?
distribute it?
Okay. So, our preliminary numbers as of, yesterday when I checked, this new AP Government and Politics course, we already have nearly 50 students registered for it. It's a College Board course. We are running it without an actual textbook. The instructor is, going to get creative. I did sample a few different textbooks, but truthfully, when it comes to civics-based education, it's so malleable and current and requires a lot of changes and updating. Obviously, the Constitution is pretty much a constant, but in that regard, we've been able to use a lot of online sources for that. But if you notice in our highlights page, our AP numbers have been increasing, and next school year, all courses are up to 2 sections. We've seen increases in AP European, the U.S. history, certainly the government and politics, which I'm not even certain we can accommodate all of the students because I just don't have enough staffing to create enough sections. So 50 students would typically constitute about 3 sections, but I'm looking to run 2. And that's happening with some of my other electives. I have over 70 students registered for, as of the other day, economics, and I can only run 2 sections of that. It's just the nature of the beast where we're at. But Our scores have been very good in recent years. We have had students take the AP Government and Politics course in the past. Unfortunately, it was only 3 students, but that's because we've never offered the course before. But all 3 students who took it last year scored above a 3 or better, as indicated in my highlights page. But my department works very hard, and we work very hard with very little. We don't ask for a lot. We're fortunate that our discipline lends itself to a lot of online resources. One thing I typically do ask for in my budget is a lot of like different used textbooks and sources, things I can find on Amazon, more so to supplement their content so that they can provide additional resources for students within the obvious like copyright liability issues. But really for our teachers, since they're working with revised curriculums, but they're also working without that safety net of the structure that a textbook offers. So I like to be able to provide them with as many different resources as possible to just really to enhance their craft as well. So when I'm purchasing resources, I'm getting, used textbooks, 1 cent in some cases. I did ask for The Good Old Days, They Were Terrible, which was a supplemental book that I was looking for the U.S. history kids. I can find them used, they're used on Amazon anywhere from, 1 cent, or in some cases, if I can't buy them in bulk, I can get them for as cheap as $10. But I'm really just looking for a class set because there's certain resources in it. So maybe I think I asked for 30 books in this case, or 20. Just for us to use between our level 1 and our level 2 U.S. history courses. We really truthfully do not use the textbook we have. It's pretty dated, and it's, for us, we just look for other resources. But in the last 4 years, we've added 4 courses, electives, and they all continue to run. We saw a great jump in all of our social science electives. This year, our child and adolescent psychology was at 11. We're at, like 35 students right now for that. Our 20th century political ideologies, Nazism and fascism, and communism course has increased as well. And we've also offered a Price of Freedom, Americans at War, and we've been able to consistently run at least 1 section over the last few years. And this year, next school year, we're very fortunate that students are really interested. I've been trying to take our department a little bit different direction to the sort of career pathways where we can look at opportunities for our department courses to complement other disciplines. Not every student is going into the social science discipline, but I want our courses, students to see how our courses can supplement others. So students going into the health field, our child and adolescent psychology, our psychology course as a whole, sociology, or anyone going into law enforcement. We have a criminal justice course, introduction to law, but also psychology if you're looking at profiling. So trying to get our courses marketing to students as courses that they would be really, it'd be advantageous for them to take them regardless of their discipline. And it seems to be working. We have a great increase. I have wonderful teachers who work very hard and are very knowledgeable in their subject matter. And I'm really proud of our AP scores, our AP numbers, and the increase. I didn't anticipate the AP government class to jump as much as it did. It's, we offered this fall. Because this exam is offered in May, we will be running the sections in the fall so that, students will then have, a couple months to prepare for it. But, I mean, I was overwhelmed by the number of students that were interested in taking it, but also very proud that our students are willing to take on that initiative. They'll continue to have the community service component in it, just like they will with the traditional civics course, and it will satisfy the civics requirement and certainly the college board requirement should they pass with a 3 or better.
I applaud you for doing what you can, doing your part for the online books. That's great to hear on that. And your budget is obviously very low. But at the beginning of your introduction, I believe you mentioned something about turning some kids away because you can't satisfy the need with the teachers, more than likely with the classes. see your budget low, I see the great things that you're doing with the online, versioning, going to Amazon and doing everything you possibly can to keep it low. But my advice to you is, I know this year is a tough year, but my advice is, you should ask, ask next time, because I hate to hear that we're turning kids away that wanna
The
learn.
seniors will get first precedence in getting the AP government class. We do have some juniors that take civics. I don't believe, I can't say for certain if juniors have registered for the AP government course, but, it's really, for us, it's a staffing issue. Last year, a teacher left, his position was not filled, and then when Mark Logan, left the social studies department, I essentially lost 7 sections of teaching or course classes available to offer during that. I was fortunate to get a few 6th assignments this year to fill that gap, but we do have large classes in my department. It's my understanding that the 1-year middle school position that was this year to satisfy the 3 teams will be moving to the high school. I have a teacher that will be leaving the high school, and the hope is that we'll be able to bring that teacher in, and I'm hopeful that, given the numbers, that I can make it work with the sections. But our civics classes are high. We've had some overrides of 20, 26, and 27 students in the class, but it's a graduation requirement. So seniors, we've got to let them in. We don't have a high civics failure rate, which is great, so we don't have a lot of repeats. If they're taking it in the fall and they don't pass for whatever reason, we don't see a high carryover into the spring, but we certainly have to make that option available for them since it is graduation requirement. So we're hopeful that we can get all the kids in.
Yeah, 2 questions. Did you lose level 3 courses this year?
We did.
And how is that working for you?
We transitioned to level 2-3. The needs are incredible. The teachers work really hard. They all have a co-teacher. We've been pretty successful with that, but it does require a lot of adjusting, if you will. And there has been concern about the degree of rigor because the need is so great. We had both a high incident of IEPs and 504s in the classroom, but I feel like maybe the IEPs were sort of considered first, and some of the 504s have the same or similar accommodations needed that the IEP requires as well. So it was a lot of different versions of assessments, a lot of different versions of readings, and the teachers have, carried out their professional duties with aplomb. They've done a really great job, but it is exhausting, and it has been. But, it's where we're going, and I suspect in time we'll see a lot of positive changes from it from a social standpoint. When I polled my department just to kind of gauge their co-teaching experiences and what it's like to teach these sort of level 2-3 mix, and, a lot of it's pretty 50-50, it was mostly positive. The concern or the challenges was always associated with the great colossal period of planning that's taken place and the different accommodations and having to, pull out certain students, who may be at like a 3rd or 4th grade reading level, and we're trying to get the students in the level 2 classes who are at grade level and their resources. But I mean, if that's the direction we're going, we're all happy to accommodate that, and we're all working really hard. I teach a level 2 class, and a lot of mine is not co-taught. I'm having to make similar accommodations, and I'm working with the co-teacher from the other course, and kind of seeing how she's preparing her notes, because we have a number of our students require printed notes for them and everything.
Are the level 2 students, the traditional level 2 students, are they maintaining the same rigor that they would have last year?
Yes, but it's tough in that we can't always, the rigor is there and the teachers are differentiating for those students, but to what extent can we get as far into units as we've done in the past? Not necessarily as far. That's difficult just because of the consumption consumption of time it takes to support the students who are at the level 3 piece to it. But as far as, meeting the needs of all our students, those with challenges and those who are at traditional level 2, our teachers are providing them, at grade and ability level work, yes.
It sounds like the level 2 students are losing on this combo.
I don't know that they're necessarily losing. I think they're gaining in a lot of ways. I mean, we've seen a great level of tolerance. They're helpful to their peers. We've seen them, take initiatives to sort of, I think, even work harder because they're recognizing that perhaps, maybe their tasks are a little bit, there may be more depth and breadth required for it. But I wouldn't call them, necessarily at a disadvantage. If anything, some of them have tried to rise to the top and are transitioning to level 1 courses next year, who have felt that, I think I might like to give it a try, kind of thing. So I think it's actually kind of positive for some of our students, truthfully. And it's really just, it's an adjustment. It's the first year we've seen this mix. So I think in time, as we start to consider if we can maybe spread out our special education students a little bit more into more of our level 2 classes, so that they're not all sort of packed into one, if you will, that we might see a difference. But I think it's certainly doable, and I think the teachers are up for a challenge. My teachers who teach the level 2 classes teach them because they want to, and that they like, they don't mind working with a co-teacher. And for the most part, our pairings between regular ed and co-teacher have been quite successful.
How is it for level 3s?
The level
For
3.
previous students who were the level 3s, because this is why it was done, it was done to
Sure. From a social standpoint, the kids are all kids. They're coming in. It's kind of nice because in the middle school they're heterogeneously grouped classes, and then when you would get to the high school prior to this year, it was like, oh, you're the level 1 kid you were best friends with at lunch every day is the kid that you hardly ever see because you are now tracked with your level 3. And I think that assimilation has helped socially. And I think in some cases it's made our level 3 students want to work just a little bit harder because they want to sort of keep up with the Joneses, if you will, with their level 2 counterparts. But I mean, I think in the future we'll see, a positive transition. It's just growing pains, something we've always been so, 2, level 3, and the kids have sort of gone in these tracks with this group. So I think for some of our level 3 kids, they're actually trying to step up their game a little, truthfully, and they don't want to feel like they need to be reliant. And I think we might even see in the coming years the accommodations that some of our students need reduced just because they're used to being in this environment and they've sort of adapted to it. So I think in the long run it's going to be a benefit, hopefully. But the social science discipline is a little bit different from the math, where you really need, I would think, but again, I'm not a math teacher, but having not been the best of math students, I feel like outside of the quadratic formula, I might need a little bit.
I think I would have done that.
But as far as pre-cal, that was good.
Well, going back to math, your budget took a 33% hit, which seemed a lot. Is that gonna affect your funding to support the inquiry team social studies teacher and purchase of supplies based off of the student's need and interest?
I think so, but the thing with the Inquiry Academy is so wonderful is that it's so student driven, and we have students who wanted to build drones, who wanted to do certain things, and I didn't, I couldn't buy them batteries, you know what I mean? Like, and I didn't have it's one of the few areas that I didn't have a specific itemized budget because it's so, I don't want to say transient, but it's really indicative of what the students' projects are trying to do. And if I can just alleviate the cost of something, I can find something cheap on Amazon, some parts, something that the kids can tinker with and build together so that the parents aren't shelling out that money, I will. And I mean, within reason, if a student wants a $700 drone because he wants to modify it, obviously that's not going to happen. But if for $25 I can buy a few different pieces of something that they can use and their imagination and be creative and their ingenuity and build something support my teacher in providing him with the assistance of students, especially if it's an economically disadvantaged student. Why should that prevent him or he or she from being able to do what maybe their more economically advantaged student in that they would do? So that's really where I wanted to just, my middle school teachers don't ever ask for anything. They really are, they never, it's like pulling teeth to get them to like request, and like from the social studies services, what the grade 7 is asking for. We implemented a new grade 7 course this year. We scrapped our old one. We got rid of the textbook. It's a new geography-based course. It's contemporary. It uses like mostly online sources, separate instructional materials. It's much more current. And the curriculum is written so that it's a lot more dynamic. So one year they might focus on the like apartheid and like, you know, weather patterns in Africa and how that impacts the social, political, and economic system. So it's very, very current. Not that we don't love ancient Greece or Mesopotamia, and there's still a piece of that in it, but we wanted, if we're looking to prepare our kids for 21st century thinking and what's going on in the global community, it was paramount for us that they could take that course in grade 7 and just sort of build upon that, and they will in grade 9 global studies.
I was amazed at how low your budget is, I have to say. And it sounds like you're going to get a number and a lot. So this is just anecdote, though, I was going through your written descriptions here. I'm just curious, what's the Walmart effect? The Walmart effect?
Well, it's looking at the DVD, like the role of large corporations such as Walmart, which is the country's biggest employer, but it's one of the lowest payers. Why are 1 million people that work at Walmart likely still receiving government assistance? Why can't they get 40 hours and get regular insurance? The Walmart effect is like really the impact it's going to have like nationally on our economy, where people are buying saying goodbye to the mom and pop stores, so to speak, and just looking at the impact of massive corporations on not just the environmental aspect, but where we're purchasing our goods from, what types of goods are being sold here. But if so many folks are purchasing from Walmart, it impacts others in this whole Made in America push. If you look, most things in Walmart probably aren't. So it's looking at it would fall under like the economic systems piece, where that course, and taking a look at how it would impact and really how traditional economies would never see something like that, or command economy, but like a market economy or a mixed economy like we have, relies very heavily on stores like Walmart.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understood completely what you said, but about sections, the number of students who want to take certain courses and sections being available to staff or personnel to staff those classes. But I know that's something that we've talked about a lot at program, is wanting students to have more choice and more, personalized kinds of things. So I think I would echo what Sue says, if there's a way to look at staffing. It looks like this AP United States is really an in-demand class, and I guess because it fulfills civics is what I just heard.
And it's an AP, and we have,
okay.
we have a lot of high flyers
Yeah.
at Rham who want to pack their schedule with AP.
Yeah.
And arguably will start college, at least their first year, if they passed all their AP courses, going in as sophomores, which I think is fantastic
Yeah.
for parents and students alike when it comes to tuition.
It sounds like a great problem and a great thing that your department has done, everybody who's presented tonight, that kids are excited to be taking these classes in your classes. So, I think just as we're always trying, and I know you do, but just to be thinking creatively how we can best,
This year, I was fortunate, Dr. Szymanski was able to provide me with a few sixth assignments. So So it took the pressure off of not
Sure.
having those 7 sections. So I had 2 grade 9 global studies and a semester of civics. Next year I may, early numbers again. Tom Mueller just sent out a spreadsheet. I haven't been able to access it. I'm driving from my phone, so I don't have the exact numbers. I mean, there's a very good possibility I may need 1 or 2 semester 6th assignments to mostly to accommodate civics, because this year's junior class is our larger class. It's a kind of a bubble, and they're all going to move together next year. And in order to meet the demands of the section without compromising the integrity. I mean, nobody wants to say, sorry, you can't take AP.
Right.
But I mean, at the same time, we also offer in the spring an online honors civics course as well. So the students, anyone can take an AP exam without taking the class. And they would only have a few months into it, but our honors online course is a highly, it's a rigorous course for highly motivated students. So there are alternatives that are equitable and rigorous, if you will.
I'm all set, thank you.
I'll echo what Sue and Judy said, a little, I guess maybe I missed a piece, but not enough staff to run the sections, so.
Well, for example, I had close to 70 students registered for the economics course, but I can only run within my schedule 2 sections of economics for next year. So I know that juniors and seniors have registered for it, but the seniors will get the first sort of crack at it, and the juniors will be able to take it next year. Now, mind you, this year's econ class only had like maybe 12 students, and we've seen such a jump from 12 to almost 70 this school year. So they're really taking our classes because we're kind of great.
And so how does the teacher work? How's that scenario? You have a teacher and then you have a
Yeah, we have the regular ed teacher and then we have the co-teacher. It's a 50-50 split. I mean, you're both certified educators in the classroom, and we've been fortunate to have co-teachers who have more or less worked in the social studies department. We do have a new one, a new hire, social studies, a person in the co-teaching, but she does have a degree in social studies, so that has helped, and she's got a lot of background knowledge. But our 2 other co-teachers have consistently worked with the social studies department, so they're very familiar with the curriculum. Actually, we have 4 co-teachers in the department, and we've been very, very fortunate that they are competent as far as their understanding of the curriculum, so it's not, I'm learning this the night before, so I can participate. So like if the regular ed teacher is absent, our co-teachers can literally take over and teach the content of the class in the same way. And I don't know if that's the same for every department, or we've just been very lucky, but.
And Joe, the co-teachers are all special ed teachers. So they're not 2 social studies teachers working here, 1 social studies and 1 special ed.
Is that for everything
Yeah.
across the board?
Yeah,
or
when you
just
hear
for
the word
s-
co-teaching, that's what we're referring to.
Okay.
It's good to know.
That's what I was getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Scott. And then I would agree with the rest of the board members. I mean, your budget's very, very low, thank you. But you have field trips here, so maybe you could tell me what kind of field trips you do, because you don't have any money in your budget for field trips.
Our students pay for it. We do a prison field trip with our criminal justice class each semester. We have, I believe, between 30 and 40 students who pay to go to a maximum security correctional facility and get a tour as part of the criminal justice program. It's a very popular field trip. And last year they were on lockdown, or this past fall they were actually on lockdown, so that changed the nature of the field trip when the students were there, but the prison let them come anyway. It's incredibly popular. It sells out in like 2 days. So it's sad that we can't offer it to all. I have 4 sections of criminal justice right now, so this semester. year, actually, and we have the equivalent of about 2 sections that we can go because we can only kind of afford one school bus. The kids.
You know, that's a great example of like a department that has field trips, but they're additions to the course. So you don't need to go on the field trip in order to understand the curriculum. So that's a great experience, example of a department that we don't fund any of the field trips because they're all supplementary. As opposed to science, where they're actually going to the hospital and working with them.
But it's prison work, and since most of them would never be there, it's very exciting.
Did you force me?
No, but I thought of scared straight for a few.
How much does it cost each student, for example?
This year, they just collected the funding for that. It's not that expensive. I think around like between $10 and $20, I think. It's not anything that isn't undoable because we don't need to get like a charter bus kind of thing, like we would if we were looking, yeah. And they go to McDonald's and that's very exciting, so. They pay for that as well.
Okay. One last question about, you mentioned current textbook is outdated and not being used.
For our US, we rarely use it. I mean, it's a textbook, and I used in my previous district, and it was old in 2006 when I was using it there. It doesn't have like our current administration or anything like that. But like any textbook, like within social science, it's really just a shell. Do you know what I mean? Because so much of what we bring into the class is dynamic and current events, and you can't put that in paper. So for us, it would be more cumbersome, and they're incredibly heavy. And like I have a cart, and we just kind of have a classroom cart that I'll bring in, like if we're preparing for an assessment and there's terms and they weren't really great with taking their notes, they'll have something to look on. I'd rather them do that than Wikipedia it, because then they're gonna get way more information than they need. But for us, it's not really necessary. We have them. In a couple of years, I'd probably look to sell them if they're in demand. We have a gentleman that comes in sometimes and will buy back some of our older textbooks if another district. And then with that funding, I'm able to, in some cases, like this year, that funding was able to purchase some novels that are going to be used in criminal justice, intro to law, and sociology. So I was able to get 20 sections of that book, and I added a few additionals. I may have actually taken it out. It was something that had to do with like the Innocence Project, about individuals who were able to have their convictions overturned through that. So the social department, social teacher, criminal justice, and intro to law can all use the book, but just different sections of it in class. And because it's such a small section, it would fall within the copyright that we could use and have the kids use in class. So,
One of the things with these textbooks is when you pick up, and Amy was saying the same thing with her kids, they're literally hard to pick up, these kids' textbooks. And there's a formula on back association and scoliosis and some of those things that backpacks aren't supposed to be above a certain percent, Chris might know this, of students' body weights. And most of these backpacks, I think you said that about your daughters at one point, are exceeding that level, so these heavy textbooks.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that our students don't want to use their lockers either. I mean, they could carry zero weight if they just use their locker, but that might take away from the social aspect you have in the hallways and in passing. But I mean, for us, some departments I can totally see would need to utilize a textbook just because of the nature of their discipline. But for us, we've been fortunate. Last year I did purchase the AP US funds because ours were from 1998, our books, and they weren't aligned with the new exam. And it was just, they were bad. But we're fortunate now that we have these that have the framework, because they have a lot of the documents in it. The new APUS exam focuses more on short, document analysis, and we have a lot of that in them, so we're very lucky.
Several board members have mentioned that your budget is so low, but I see significant cuts that were made. Like your seventh grade, like what you were talking about, seventh grade, it's pretty much gone.
It is now. It wasn't in November when I put it in there,
So-
but I'm going to have to, I haven't totally decided. This budget was prepared in November, so, prices change, things change, and I'll poll the department again about what are the biggest priorities in June, and then I'm always in July 1st with doing my ordering. So in the event they don't need it, we've seen some staffing changes as far as what teachers are teaching. So like I have a teacher taking on the AP Psych course, and there's 2 sections next year, so he will probably need some additional resources, which I would forego some of the supplemental US resources that he was asking for. I may have to forego, the document cameras. One thing I know I can get rid of is the constitutions, because I believe one of the teachers purchased them herself. That was a savings of about $200, but I believe she purchased them for her students. So I guess I won't have to buy that, but it's gonna be just kind of juggling. I'm going to try to save. Unfortunately for the grade 7 stuff, the social studies service they're very expensive, but it's stuff that they sell that I can't get on Amazon, unfortunately. And I kind of monopolize that and can justify somehow $39.95 for certain things. But in the interest of copyright, I can't burn DVDs, I can't do things like that, so
Well, I guess that I would like it to be considered whether this is impacting her ability to, her programming, cutting half of her budget for the middle school.
So
And
if it helps, Amy, I was gonna ask you, item 5, to bring it back in. I mean, to bring in $688 on a $28 million budget seems like something we can ask for. But that's item 5 on our list.
the middle school too, it's like 580 is the high school.
No, I thought 688 was the title.
That's a high school, and the middle school is the 8386.
I'm also concerned that we're bringing in grade 8 of the academy, so there's a whole other 40 students.
yeah, they'll have to fund some of that, I'm just trying to get like general supplies that they could traditionally use as best as I can. I mean, we still have the social studies component, so the teacher's going to be teaching the grade 7, so we'll be utilizing some of the grade 7 curricular, but also, looking at the grade 8 US history as well, and trying to be innovative and lend itself. I mean, I think the good news for us is that when the coordinators presented a few weeks ago, if there was any on the fence parents, like especially with our tech presentation, I think, we could, if anything, see more folks looking to come to Rham. I think it provided a lot more clarification in the past as to what we actually have to offer students. So like the 2 Rivers and stuff, and I can assure you, I did cold calls last year. All of the students that elected to go outside of Rham, I cold called in the course of 2 days and documented talking to parents. And really a lot of it, like for example, students who went to the Interbaccalaureate Academy, the sister got in and dad called the school and said, listen, the only way I can send my daughter is if my son goes with her. I don't want her on the bus alone. Sure, they let him right in. And in truth, the kids aren't leaving and the parents weren't leaving because of the programs or the lack of programs or anything. For many of them, it truly was a social thing, and it was an individual student based, like just inability to maybe, interact with their peer groups. So truthfully, none of them, not a single parent indicated that it was a programming or something we didn't have to offer, that it was a social thing for their child. So I think it says a lot for what we have going on and what we offer.
I mean, I can speak for myself. I just think, and I tell everybody I know how great I think Rham is. I just think we should share that more. That's all, not cater, but just, share some of the things, because I think, and this is just my opinion, that you guys do such a good job that it's just kind of the norm, and that, that you don't, that it's highlighted, but maybe not even as much because it's always so good or something. So I think highly of Rham. I just think we should just keep sharing that more and more. That's all.
I think people think magnet and they think it's super innovative in tech piece, but I know that we can look at all of the literature that students don't necessarily perform better than their students from incoming districts. And there's always a lot of students who, having had the opportunity to teach in other districts closer to the Hartford region, we had a number of students that went to those schools, and they were typically back within a year or two. They're just not comfortable. It's a very big, different demographic environment, and they came back. So
Encourage everyone to take a look at Hartford currently. They spend a lot of ink on that whole subject of magnet schools.
Today.
Yeah, like 8 pages worth of.
Wow.
substantial.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He is next. Guidance.
Next, we have Mrs. Morano and Mrs. Kmet. That's right.
Hi, I'm Dee Katz. I'm one of the co-coordinators, and this is Jane Rham. Jay and I took over at the very, very end of November. And what we've been really trying to focus on with our department is working on communication with teachers, with students, and with parents, and really working to hit every kid, to have a relationship with every kid, to work more with developmental guidance programs through our Naviance program, both in classrooms and through advisory programs. Honestly, Jay and I have been in this district for a long time together, and we have heard you over the years. We've heard the comments, both positive and negative, about what you'd like to see, some of the changes you'd like to see in the department, and we're trying to address that as best that we can. I feel, quite honestly, that our department, as it stands right now, is the strongest it's been in the 18 years I've been at Rham. I think that our colleagues are incredibly talented, hardworking individuals. Individually and as a group, we're really working to strengthen the 7th through 12th program. And like I said, working with developmental guidance in particular to try to reach every kid and look at them as individuals, but to work with them in small groups as well. So some of the highlights really, these were highlights that were established at the end of November, beginning of December. And really what we're looking at is to continue to use our Naviance program. 7th and 8th grade, they use Naviance through developmental guidance. And we at the high school are doing that more now. It's been kind of, honestly, when I started at Rham years ago, prior to having Naviance, we did a lot more developmental guidance going into the classrooms in the high school setting, and working with kids in those small groups. Now using Naviance, it's just a tool that helps us to do that better, and to track it better, to link those with student success plans, and to really identify what we've done as a department is really identify what we want to focus on with each grade. And so we're able to do that. Like I said, going into the classrooms, we're also using the advisory program with Mike Rambone and Alan Mokowitzki, who run the advisory program. They have been unbelievably supportive about letting us come in and really work with them to identify what we want to say in a 30-minute period. and how we want to say it. And so we've also, based on our newest hires, recommendations, she suggested when she was an intern that we should be running advisories alphabetically to better link to our own students, because our alphabetical breaks, our caseloads are typically broken down alphabetically. So we're trying to identify what's working, what's not working, and to address those issues. In addition, like I said, it's been a transition as far as Jay and me taking over. We hired Molly Powell. She was our full-time intern for the last year. She's absolutely fantastic. And she and some of the other newer hires are bringing a lot of newness to the department, to be honest with you. They are much better. Well, Jay's great at technology. I'm not as good. And so, but our new hires are fantastic. And just being able to do quick surveys with the kids and to, send out different email blasts and Naviance blasts and to use Twitter accounts and Facebook and things like that. It's, I'm not that old, but that stuff is not as I'm not as comfortable with that stuff as they are. And so it's really kind of, I think, reinvigorated our department, and I feel good about where we are right now.
And just to highlight some of our objectives over the next year, we're going to continue to work on our student success plans that do capitalize on using Naviance. I have to say that Sam Chattel, who is our career technical coordinator as well, as part of our department, has used Naviance to a degree that is beyond what I can do, but I'm learning. But we've used a lot of the different inventories within it, and we're using it to assign tasks to students, which the students might not necessarily know that they've gotten a task assigned to them, but it's part of their student success plan that we then go back and edit that task that is complete, so we track more of what they're doing and what we're doing with them.
And many of those tasks have been uploaded into their portfolio, which has been nice graduation.
So we've started using that for the portfolio piece of it as early as freshman year, so that they created an online portfolio. We have new websites for both the high school and the middle school. So if you go to the Rham School's website, you can click on school counseling and you'll see pictures of all of us, which I'm not sure is a...
I encourage you to take a look.
But it also highlights our extensive education. Every one of us has a 3-year master's, and we've all had a variety of careers prior to this, some of us, and we bring that experience to the department. So I do encourage you to look at that. We've also have sort of put our forms and things like that students are always asking for, like in as many spots as possible, so it's easier for them to find them, as well as parents. We're looking for some increased functionality with our guidance secretary. I've gotten here the word registrar. She spends a great deal of her time answering the phone, directing students, which interrupts her from doing her registrar position, and it becomes very overwhelming at times. We're looking for either an hours increase or maybe even a supplemental person that can help out with some of that day-to-day business. She is a 12-month employee, so during the summer, she is overwhelmed with new enrollments, so we are looking for some sort of support for that. We also have here a hire and train a 504 coordinator. Right now, I am acting as 504 coordinator, and I can tell you that it takes up a good portion of my day. I spend at least one period a day at the middle school chairing 504 meetings. I also am the person that's responsible for what we call 504 Direct, which is our online system for creating our 504 plans. And I'll be honest with you, it's very rigid. So I spend a good deal of my day today online with the technician there trying to get a 504 plan to look the way we want it, and they say it's not possible, which can be frustrating. So we would love some support there. At minimum, we need more training on what constitutes 504. We have approximately 120 students with 504 plans throughout the district. That is comparable to what other districts have, but we're seeing more and more pediatricians, more and more therapists. Everybody is recommending to have some sort of accommodations for the school day. And A lot of them need to be prior under 504. So we do have, it's a good portion of our grant. We all act as our own 504 case manager for our students, where some of our special ed teachers would have a case of maybe 10 to 12 students. We have 20 plus 504 students on our caseloads, each of us. So we would love to have a 504 coordinator that would allow us to have some consistency in our plans and some consistency with the legal issues, because we are faced with those on a day-to-day basis. 196 students, I'm sorry, is the number of 504 claims that we have. 71 claims. Question?
Start with Rich.
I'll start with, if you can talk a little bit more about where we are with these student success plans, and where are the students supposed to be right now with them?
And so student success plans, unfortunately, the State Department didn't give us like a framework like we would see like an IEP or a 504 plan. So most districts are doing what we're doing, and we're tracking everything that we've done with the students through Naviance. We've used the tasks in Naviance. We actually spent a day down in Colchester with one of the one of the experts in Naviance, and came up with a plan where we have a program for each grade level that breaks down into tasks. And some of those tasks are detailed here with the Do What You Are, the Career Interest Profiler. We're doing those as lessons. So we've gotten into English classes where we provide, the 9th grade English classes where we provided a lesson in career interest inventories. They were able to translate that into an objective in their portfolio. We continue with the sophomores. We've done 50% of the sophomores. We're going to finish the sophomore student health classes, where they invite us in for a lesson where they can do the Do What You Are Career Interest Profiler. We work with our juniors and seniors daily on career and postgraduate planning, and all that is built into what we consider a student success.
So are you saying that at this point, all the students have been using Naviance?
Yes, 7 through 12. I remember last time I was here, somebody was questioning, and I said that their child didn't know what Naviance was. They are all using it. Interesting, no.
How would they not know it?
I would love to answer that question, but I don't know. We do introduce it to them in 7th grade. And they use it again in 8th grade. We introduce it in 9th grade, 10th grade, and then in junior and senior year, it really becomes the cornerstone of some of our college planning, because we send off our transcripts. All of our letters of recommendation are all sent through Naviance, and that's really the main piece of Naviance in most schools, but we're trying to utilize it across the board, 7 to 12.
Are you verifying that they're actually logging on and using it?
Yes. Are they using it in addition to our classes? That's a good question. I can't
I
guarantee
seriously
that.
doubt that 9th and 10th graders, when my kids went through Rham, they didn't use Naviance, even though I lived there in the house. And so it wasn't something that they use all the time. When they become juniors, they absolutely need to start using it junior and senior year. But we do it. So it's almost, some of these things are, at this point, to be perfectly honest, more one-shot deals. We go into the classroom, we go into the health room and say, all right, let's log on to Naviance, let's do this this activity. We talk about it, we get them to do a reflection piece, they upload it to their portfolio. Do I think they're going back and spending a lot of time? No, and honestly, that's something we struggle with a lot, because we want to do meaningful things with the students. We want to know our students. And we don't want to go in and simply check boxes. That's not what we're looking for. That said, the students will be able to say, okay, I met with a student last week and we were talking about, he said he was a sophomore, he said, I don't know what I want to do. And I said, oh, did you do this inventory? Yes, I did. Let's refer back to it. Not because he has to have the same thoughts he did a year ago, but because it's a starting point. We're also really pushing on